What is going on, world? What's up, YouTube? It's Zero here. Today I'm bringing you guys a brand new Cyberpunk 2077 video, so let's get into it. So today, guys, we're going to be talking about one major question, and that being, could Cyberpunk 2077 be set in the John Wick universe? So let's talk about it. So guys, I know it sounds extremely unlikely, an out of this world sort of scenario, but I just want to talk about it, guys, because Cyberpunk 2077 seems like one of those games that I'm extremely intrigued by, and I definitely want to break down a lot of these things, and no one's talking about this current scenario, so I want to bring up this to all of you nonetheless. So to start, guys, what is Cyberpunk 2077? Well, Cyberpunk 2077 is an upcoming role-playing video game developed and published by CD Projekt, releasing for Google Stadia, Microsoft Windows, PlayStation 4, and Xbox One on April 16, 2020. Adapted from the 1988 tablet game Cyberpunk 2020, it is set 57 years later in dystopian Night City, an open world with 6 distinct regions. In a first-person perspective, players assume the role of the customizable mercenary V, who can reach prominence in hacking, machinery, and combat. V has an arsenal of ranged weapons and options for melee combat. Cyberpunk 2077 is being developed by CD Projekt Red, an internal studio within CD Projekt using the Red Engine 4 game engine. They launched a new division in Roclaw and partnered with Digital Scapes to assist production. Around 450 total staff members are involved with the development, exceeding the number that worked on the studio's previous game, The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt. Cyberpunk creator Mike Pondsmith consulted on the project, and actor Keanu Reeves has a starring role. So a little more information about the game. Night City is an American megacity in the free state of California, controlled by corporations and unassailed by the laws of both country and state. It sees conflict from rampant gang wars and its ruling entities contending for dominance. The city is contingent on robotics for everyday aspects like waste collection, maintenance, and public transportation. The internet is managed by corporations and the army. Homelessness abounds, but does not preclude cybernetic modification for the poor, giving rise to cosmetic addiction and consequent violence. These threats are dealt with by the armed force known as Psycho Squad. Because of the constant threat of physical harm, all citizens are allowed to own and openly carry firearms in the public. So I just wanted to give you guys a little bit of some context here as to what Cyberpunk 2077 is all about here, as far as from a standpoint of the environment and where we're at in current times and such. Now, as far as John Wick is concerned in this, I know it's a stretch, guys. You're probably looking at this and you're thinking, man, this sounds like a huge stretch. As far as John Wick, could Keanu Reeves' character actually be John Wick in Cyberpunk 2077? And it does sound extremely far-fetched, but at the same time, anything is possible. In an article that was written by Entertainment Weekly by Evan Lewis, many questions were asked about Cyberpunk 2077, as well as John Wick, to Keanu Reeves. One of them being, what can you say about your character in Cyberpunk 2077? I can't tell you too much about what the ultimate thing is, but the character I play is a rebel, and he's a cool character. He's described as a rocker boy. Yeah, he has this kind of corporate paramilitary background and got injured. And he has this kind of bionic arm now. He started a band called Samurai that he's the lead singer of. And he's kind of a rebel leader against the corporate-ocracy. So right off the rip, guys, I mean, when you look at he's a rebel. I mean, that doesn't scream John Wick, obviously. And then a bionic arm, that doesn't sound very John Wickish either. But what I'm saying is here, guys, is could John Wick be in a game in the future in Cyberpunk 2077? Is it a possibility? I think it is. And could this character be John Wick? I think it definitely could, because it certainly looks like him. And ultimately, he can't say much about the character, which obviously he wouldn't probably be able to talk much about the character regardless of what the character really all encompasses. But that being said, it sure does look like John Wick in many different ways. And I know that Keanu Reeves looks like that in real life as far as the long hair is concerned and such. But it certainly looks like John Wick, just with a bionic arm. So you had to think a little bit more about how your character spends idle time. Yeah, stuff like that was in between moments and not just kind of playing the drama of a scene. That's an example of the super specific kind of thing that's unique to a game. Like, while the character is making a decision, you're in the shot and you've got to be like, heavy sigh. What was it about Cyberpunk specifically that made you want to jump into the game industry? Why did you say yes to this project? From the outside, the idea of storytelling, the technology of storytelling has changed so much, right? It's developed and the evolution of it, what does that mean? For me, even though the RPG is a legacy format, the sophistication in that is appealing. As opposed to mass player games or battle royales, this is kind of a closed world, but you can move in that world and it's your personal journey through it. That's really a legacy idea in terms of a format in gaming, but the sophistication that they can do it now, technologically, you can have a list of choices of how you want to be, what's your character, not only how you look, but how do you behave, how do you think. What's important to you? Is it strength? Is it intelligence? You can play the game changing your character like that, which means that you can play the game once one way and play it a myriad of other different ways and get different scenes, like play the same scene multiple different ways. And so as a storyteller, I think that's cool. Right now, media is often like choose your ending, and in a weird way, that's how a lot of entertainment is getting reviewed. Like, oh, I wish the movie did this. Why didn't they do that? So that impulse can be satisfied or engaged with. And I like this answer by Keanu Reeves in a number of different ways. The one word that really sticks out to me is legacy, and that's very interesting to me. I feel like in a way, he was almost saying that he wanted to have Cyberpunk 2077 as a part of his portfolio of things that he's worked on as a legacy opportunity for himself. But I also think that it's a legacy as far as the video game industry as a whole. I find Cyberpunk 2077, guys, is such a huge idea, and I feel that this is a game that could change so much about the game industry as far as from an open world standpoint, that there is a lot of legacy there, because no matter how you twist or turn it, The Witcher 3 changed gaming in a certain way, and Cyberpunk 2077 could very well do the exact same, in the standpoint that this could define open world games as we know it in the future, depending on how it is and how it's received by the public. Do you find that you want to get more into the gaming space, having worked on this project? After I went through another development of the game today, like 45 minutes with it, I was like, I think I'm going to upgrade my player, learn how to play this game. Yeah, what I could see today was just really engaging, and I think just with the quality of the image and all the detail of the light and the production design, it's a really cool world, and the characters are cool. So I feel like Keanu Reeves is just explaining like his character and being within the gaming space, and I think it's a great thing, right? Keanu Reeves is such a huge figure now because of John Wick, and I'm really wondering, and that's why why I made this video, guys, is the simple fact that could Keanu Reeves' character in Cyberpunk 2077 be John Wick? I know it's a stretch, and it sounds pretty far-fetched, but I just want to throw the idea out there. We do this on the channel, guys, regularly, where we give the idea, certain ideas of different games and different scenarios within those games, and this being one of those as John Wick in Cyberpunk 2077. Is it completely far-fetched? I don't think it's completely far-fetched. I would say it is far-fetched, however, but he looks like John Wick. Obviously, John Wick looks exactly like Keanu Reeves does in real life, but that being said, you look at a futuristic world, it looks futuristic. Could John Wick look like that in a video game with a bionic arm? I could totally see it. He gets shot or something happens where he has to get a bionic arm. I could totally see that. John Wick, the world that it's set in, I mean, it could be somewhat futuristic. I don't really think in any of the John Wick movies they give us an exact date as to when John Wick is happening as far as the current events and such. Are they present time, past time, or future time? I don't really think they throw that out there. But Cyberpunk 2077, guys, is one of those games that I think could continue to define open world gaming in many ways, but one of those being that there could be this cross connection between the video game and movie industry, which I think would be absolutely incredible. And I would actually, to be honest with you guys, would love to see it. I would love to see John Wick in a video game. I think that would be absolutely badass. I do think that Cyberpunk 2077, as well as games like Death Stranding, will continue to evolve the open world game industry as a whole. I really do, guys, and I think that this question in particular is one that may not be realistic, but it's one that I think we should talk about, because could Keanu Reeves' character actually be John Wick in Cyberpunk 2077? Also, Cyberpunk 2077 reminds me of Blade Runner in many different ways. It reminds me of Blade Runner as well as John Wick. There's a couple of movies here that are like kind of relatable to that of Cyberpunk 2077. And I know we haven't actually played and really got our hands on Cyberpunk 2077, which is obviously going to be into next year. But man, it just feels like so much like a Blade Runner meets John Wick meets iRobot, and then you've got Cyberpunk 2077. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Do you think Cyberpunk 2077 could be in the same universe as John Wick? I would love to hear from you guys. Let me know in the comment section down below. Subscribe if you're new, stay positive, and as always, I'll talk to you guys all in the next one. Peace.